So as far as China outlook is concerned, look, we are most focused on the deflationary challenge that the economy is facing. And at this point of time, we think that the policy action has not been sufficient enough to get them out of that deflation in a decisive manner. And this is something that we have highlighted for a number of months now, that for revival out of this deflation challenge, they need to take up aggressive fiscal easing and at the same time keep monetary policy easy and ideally achieve a dynamic where you have a significant gap between interest rates and growth rates, which would be necessary to revive that corporate sector sentiment as well as the household sentiment to go ahead and spend. But as I mentioned, at this point of time, there are very little signs that we are on that track right now.
And if there are very little signs, then how do you react when clients say, oh, but there's optimism coming in? People are saying things have bottomed out in China.
Well, I think from a real economy standpoint, we are expecting that growth will be at 4.2% next year. So we are below consensus. And from a quarterly trajectory perspective, look, the underlying growth was in 2023 at 4%. So we are modestly higher, but we don't see a proper full-fledged recovery going forward because of the challenges that I mentioned earlier.
Chetan, can I ask you, because this has been a topic for debate over the course of the last 18 months. People were first suggesting that you're going to see this growth coming through for China, and now it's been, consensus is established that we are going to see that weakness. But on top of what you're suggesting, right, that it hasn't been enough that they've been doing. If they do more, do they run the risk of falling into a little bit of a trap thereof, where you're going to have consistent monetary policy a la Japan for the next 10, 20 years that is incredibly easy?
Well, no, I think the solution that we are sort of highlighting is expansion of fiscal deficit. Monetary policy is somewhat easy and interest rates are relatively low. What Japan made as a mistake in the early days of its deflationary challenge is that it kept monetary policy too tight and interest rates were too high. In China's case, that is not the problem. But the problem, we think, is that they are not taking up fiscal expansion. We think incremental monetary easing will help, but you really need the central government to expand its deficit and increase spending. Moreover, we are also saying that they should be taking up fiscal expansion that boosts consumption and not as much private investment or public investment, because at this point of time, there are excess capacities in China's economy. That is why we have the deflation problem. So the ideal solution would be to boost consumption, and they can do that through fiscal expansion. They can take up public spending on healthcare, education, and housing. That can unleash the saving rate from the migrant workers, which are 250 million of them, could actually then run down their saving and increase spending as well. So you can get a double benefit. Government increases spending first, and then you get the, household sector also joining in by running down their saving.